Right, I'm delighted to say it is time for us to talk football with John Giles. John, good afternoon, good evening to you. How are you?
Good afternoon, Ger. Good evening, Ger.
Good to talk to you. Before we get into the football, you've been living with your vaccination for the last while. Is normal life returning?
Well, it's getting better gradually, Ger. I was very lucky. I got the vaccine early on, one of the first. Which will leave my mind. It didn't alter my lifestyle in very much, but it seems to be improving. As you know, I'm in Birmingham, so the vaccination has been a huge success here, and it looks like it's turning things around.
Yeah, everybody's beginning to think about returning to normality anyway.
Yes, yeah. Well, I'm in Birmingham, Ger, so I want to get I have a couple of things to do in Dublin, a few people to see in Dublin. So the sooner the better. Yeah,
fingers crossed that you'll be able to jump across the sea back and forth as much as ever in the past.
Yeah, be great, yeah.
Listen, let's start with last night's game, where for a while in the first half it looked like Liverpool's Champions League hopes were over, and then all of a sudden a good performance, and it looks like it's definitely in their own hands. And the 3 remaining games they have, while you wouldn't give them the 9 points just yet, all of a sudden they can feel confident about qualifying for the Champions League next year, which is a really, really massive thing for them.
Well, it's huge, Ger, considering the season they had, the injuries they've had. To qualify for Europe would be a huge success for Liverpool, because things look so really, really poor for them up to now. And it's amazing the way it's happened, Ger, because United are the big enemies, as we know, Liverpool and Manchester United, and it looked like Solskjaer was resting a lot of players for this particular match, and it hasn't worked out for them in that particular way, but very, very good for Liverpool.
I'm going to talk to you about Solskjaer in a minute, because we've been having a conversation on OTB AM about who the potential manager of the year is, so we'll get to that in a minute. But I do want to ask you about Klopp, and is the criticism of Klopp fair when you consider that for most of the year he insisted on playing Fabinho or Henderson, or sometimes both, at centre-back, when really they were desperately missing in midfield? And I understand that the centre-backs, he clearly doesn't have faith in the centre-backs, even the ones that he was playing last night. But was the right thing to do to sacrifice your midfield, or was the right thing to do to at least try and put your best foot forward from midfield on?
Well, I think no matter what he did, he wasn't going to win. If he didn't move those lads at the back earlier than did, which I think they did a good job for him, it would have been very easy to say, well, why didn't he leave them in midfield and bring the others back? It was a very, very difficult situation for him. I think he did the best he could in the circumstances he was in.
So no significant criticism really of that decision?
No. Well, it was the most unusual season for Liverpool. I mean, if you look at the amount of injuries they had, and with the virus situation, one match coming on top of the other, I don't think there was any way out for him. Really, I thought, with Van Dijk in particular, all the centre-backs going on him, what could he do? Like even the centre-backs he played the other night and played recently, they didn't look secure to me. I know they got a good win last night. So, if you give it one way, you take it away in another way, and that's all he could do. He could only do what he felt was right at that particular time. So I think the season that Liverpool had, I definitely would put it down to the injuries they had. Sure.
Okay, that's fair enough. And so as a result of that, I think it's fair to say most people would expect them to be genuine title contenders next season. Are you in that camp?
Oh, definitely. You don't become a bad side overnight, Ger, and that's what really happened to Liverpool this year. Now, to be fair, there were some matches that they did lose against, some teams that were in the bottom of the league that you wouldn't have expected them to do so. So that's why it finished up such a bad time for them at that particular stage. But I'd be surprised if Liverpool don't bounce back next season.
Okay. The one talking point in the aftermath of the game, he's on the pitch, Klopp, and he's got his hand out and he's doing the fist bumps with everybody. Sadio Mane is having none of that. Klopp afterwards explained that he didn't have time to explain to Sadio Mane that he was being dropped, and that's why Sadio Mane was annoyed, but there's no problem between them long term. Is there anything in this?
No, it's a reaction from a player, Ger. I know from my own time, I was subbed a few times and didn't like it. It's actually a terrible situation for any footballer to be subbed, and some take it well, some don't. I think in Mane's case, I mean, he's been a huge player and a very successful player for Liverpool, and to be left out of the team, I know he wasn't subbed, he was left out of the team, and he didn't take it very well. But most players don't take it well. They hide it. He didn't. But I'd say there'll be only one winner there if it comes to any sort of a disagreement, and that would be Klopp.
He seems to have an excellent relationship with players even when he is taking them off.
Yeah, well, I think that what you find, it's a bad side of most clubs when a player objects to being sent off. I mean, that's the first player I think that I've seen from Liverpool who's made a bit of a deal of it. I mean, I remember last year, I think it was last year, they played at Old Trafford, and it might have been the season before, when he took Henderson off, and Henderson was in a bit of a huff and walked past him, and he went after him. I think the players are scared of Klopp, and actually most successful managers, players are scared of them. They have this in them. Now, they wouldn't be... I mean, Matt Busby was a very easy-going looking manager, but most of the players, myself included, would be scared stiff of him. And I think Mane would have been annoyed. He's done so much for Liverpool and played so well to be left out. Nobody likes it. No player likes to be left out. But I'd say there'll be a few words today, and I think Klopp would make it known in no uncertain terms, I'm not happy with this situation.
Okay, that brings us nicely to the opposition manager last night. What did you make of Solskjaer's performance then over the last while? Obviously, he's missing a key person in central defence in terms of his captain, who he has invested a lot of time and faith in. And in his absence, Harry Maguire looked much better last night.
I'm not a Solskjaer fan, Ger. I'd say he's a very nice fella, he's a very nice lad, but I don't think... what I see with the great managers is an improvement match by match. Football, in my opinion, is made up of a million small things. It might be the fullback who's not in the cover position, should be in the cover position. You put that right. Then you put the next thing, little thing, right, put that right, put that. And that's why you see an improvement in teams, obviously, because they're going to be winning matches where before they weren't. I don't see that with Solskjaer. I think he picks the team. I'm not so sure he's in charge of the incoming of players. I think he picks the team and he says, right, out you go and play. Right? I don't think there's the next day to individually or collectively to say, look, this should have happened, you should have been here, you should have been here. And that's, in my opinion, how a team becomes consistent and better as you go along. I don't see that with Solskjaer. I think it's 1 week it's very good. One match is very good. Next match it's not so good. I don't see a consistent run of improvement with the players that he has. They pick them, go out and play, and that's it. And that's when I think you get the inconsistency in teams. Not just in Solskjaer's team. Any manager that's not putting it right, bit by bit, match by match, getting better and better.
It's funny because we've been having this debate too about it's hard to know what the truth about Manchester United's season is because they've had so many brilliant comebacks in the second half. Do you give them credit for that comeback and that spirit, or do you dock them points in terms of like where they're going to be next season for the fact that so many mediocre teams find it easy against them in the first half to get a lead?
Well, if you look at it it's two ways you can look at it, Ger. Doing very well to come back, right, which is good. On the negative side of it, why would you get behind all the time? You know, like if you've got a consistent team, you wouldn't go behind as many times as they have done to have to make a comeback, Ger. So it depends what way you look on it, you know. I would look on it now, well, you shouldn't have to be coming back that much. And
that's the bit, isn't it? Because, you know, everybody's always 2 or 3 players away from challenging for the title. And from Manchester United's perspective, if they could be consistent week to week and inflict their game plan on the opposition, it feels like they're not in that scenario at the moment because so many of the games that do require a comeback.
Yeah, that's just it. It's a way you get a consistency in a team, Jeff, which is about results. Is that if you get a team starting the season and Joe Bloggs at right back is not in the right position, but you put him right, So that's improved him. And that's why I say football is made up of a million things. The centre-half mightn't be in the right. The centre-forward mightn't be doing the right things. And you put them right in that. And when you put everything right as much as you possibly can, you never get it 100%, results improve. In other words, especially giving goals away. You know, you can't tell people how to score goals, but you actually can teach people defensively how to stop goals. Yeah. Right. And obviously, the less goals you concede, the less you have to score yourself to win the match. But I don't see that in Solskjaer. I think he picks the team, go out and play. And then the next match, if there's mistakes made, I don't think he sees them, so therefore you can make the same mistakes again. But I think with the really top managers, the fullback makes a mistake once, and he gives him. And in my opinion, when I was a manager playing, I gave a player three goals. If the fullback was in the wrong position, and what you have to do is simplify to say, right, if you stay in this position, you stop that. Have you got it? Yeah, I've got that. Right? If it happens 3 times, Ger, I gave up. Because you simplify it and you put it in the right position. It's made up of a million things, football. It could be the left back who's too far forward, not covering up. I mean, if you look at one of the goals they conceded yesterday from the free kick, right, with Liverpool.
Yeah.
Where was Pogba on it? He was supposed to be marking the Firmino. And he was nowhere near him when Firmino was putting the ball in the back of the net. You know, now if that, you can't allow that to happen with any player. I don't mean Pogba; it just happened to be Pogba's position at that time. But if you're conceding goals, there's usually a reason for it, and you have to be able to spot it and put it right, so it doesn't happen again. And the more matches you play, the more things you put right, and the less goals you concede, particularly. I don't see that at Manchester United.
And Manchester United fans are obviously going to be like, but we're much better than we were last year. There's progress. They're in a Europa League final.
But that doesn't mean. Of course, you can have progress, but it's Manchester United we're talking about. Yeah, you know, Manchester United used to winning things, and of course it's an improvement last year because you're getting players in, you spend a lot of money on players, a hell of a lot of good players. Yeah, a hell of a lot of good players at Old Trafford. A really lot. You know, really good squad of players. And when you get a squad of players, any manager, does he get the best out of them? I mean, you go back to Bielsa at Leeds, for example. He didn't spend any money, hardly any money. Is he getting the best out of them? Yeah. Are they better than they were 2 years? Yes, definitely. I don't see that at Manchester United.
Would somebody like the impact that Thomas Tuchel has had at Chelsea has been very interesting to see. I wonder how much of that is down to Frank Lampard not being very good and Tuchel being really great. I can't tell just yet. I think it's early to be making significant judgments about Tuchel, but he seems very good. Would he do better at Manchester United than Solskjaer's doing?
Well, it's hard to know, Ger, because it's early days at Chelsea. You know, sometimes when a new manager comes in, you do get a bit of an uplift, and then it evens itself out. So we have to wait and see on that. So far, I think he's done a very, very good job. You know, whether he would do the job at Old Trafford or not, I think the jury's still out on things. But again, I'd go back to Bielsa. You know, look what Bielsa's done. He's there for 2 or 3 years at Leeds. Pretty much the same players, yeah, 1 or 2. We haven't spent a lot of money, and look at the difference he has made. That's the problem. That's the thing I'm saying. When a manager comes in, and that's over 2 or 3 years, not over 2 or 3 months. I mean, I think Tuchel is very good. I think he's made a huge difference to Chelsea. Can he continue with it? Then we have to wait and see. It's very promising, and it looks very good, but it's early days yet.
Is it possible that Solskjaer is learning on the job and getting better as things go? So again,
well, I don't see that. You see, Ger.
Well, let me give some examples. What about Luke Shaw, who was a complete lost cause under Mourinho, who suddenly has become a player who they're getting value for? Even Wan-Bissaka is beginning to look like a player who, in an attacking sense, is beginning to add something to his game. As a defender, he seems decent.
No, I think Bissaka's always been good. I think Shaw's always been good, and there's no doubt. I mean, when Mourinho there, I think he made a big mess of it, and he picked on Shaw in a way that he should never have done, and 1 or 2 other players, and he has recovered. There's no doubt about that, and he would. And I think Solskjaer would be the type of manager that would be good for him, in that he wouldn't be saying things to him that Mourinho did. There's no doubt about that. I'm not saying he hasn't been good for some players, but I'm looking at the overall picture.
Right.
Yeah. Like, how long is he there now? 2 years?
I'd say a bit longer, yeah.
Yeah, a bit longer. You know, you have to, after a year, you have to be seeing things, Ger. And I don't see it. I don't see it in Manchester United. That's why you get the inconsistency. Like, some days they can be brilliant. But if you say to players, without putting everything right, go out and play, of course there'll be some days they play better than other days. But if you want to be winning things, there's a consistency about it, Ger. That you don't give, like Liverpool last year when they were at their best, didn't give anything away, and obviously scored goals. But there's consistency about the whole setup in it, and I just don't see that over the 2 years that Solskjaer. There has been improvements because they brought good players on, and they brought Fernandes, and they made a couple of good buys, definitely. But not I don't think we have the. I don't see the improvement that should be there for Manchester United.
Let's talk then about the debate about who the manager of the year is, because that kind of feeds into all this. If Manchester City go on and win the European Cup, is Pep automatically the manager of the year, or have there been other managerial performances that actually, given the resources available to them, given the way that the team has performed, is Brendan Rodgers in that conversation? Is there anybody else that you think has done really well this year?
Well, it's all relative, Ger, to what you have at your disposal. I mean, in Pep's case, especially if they win the Champions League, he'd have to be manager of the year, because he's obviously made the most of the resources that he has at his disposal, and he does have more at his disposal than certainly most of the other managers. But if you win what you should be winning, then you can't do any more than that. Obviously, there are other managers who don't have the resources he has, who've done a really good job. I think you mentioned Brendan Rodgers early on. Terrific job at Leicester. Hasn't spent much money, and he's up there challenging. He's in the cup final at the weekend. You know, that's a terrific job. But if Pep does what he does or can do, then you'd have to give it to him. But there's other players. I'd mention Bielsa in it, coming from again. I know people might think because I'm an ex-Leeds player, it doesn't matter to me that. But I think what Bielsa's done. I mean, he's finished in halfway up the league. That I would think. I mean, the other teams that were relegated, that were promoted with him, are going down now. And he doesn't have any great resources, but he's done something to the club in the past 2 years that certainly wasn't there before, and made a huge improvement. Brendan Rodgers has done it at Leicester this season, definitely. And one player, I think the manager will be in the run. I definitely put Sean Dyche from Burnley in the running. He's had very, very, very basic resources, if that's the right word, Ger, to do what he's done year after year in the Premiership. Unbelievable, I think. And that takes a lot of good management, hardly spending any money and staying there and keeping there. That's a terrific job to be done. I mean, Tuchel, we'll wait and see, Ger. It's early days, yeah. I think so far for Chelsea, very, 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 very promising. David Moyes is doing a good job at West Ham with what he has. I think Dean Smith at Villa has done a huge job. What he has at his disposal, definitely. Solskjaer, United, I don't think Liverpool have had a bad season by their standards. Arteta hasn't done a good job. Mourinho is at Spurs, didn't do a good job. These were some of these managers. Mourinho and Arteta would have things at their disposal that Dyche wouldn't have. I think Klopp was very unlucky with the injuries that they had this season. Definitely.
Brendan Rodgers is an interesting case, and the next week is going to decide, how successful a season it's been for Leicester. If they win the cup and they qualify, if they obviously play Chelsea twice in 3 days, if they were to win both those games, essentially they'll be into the Champions League, and that would be an amazing achievement, and they'll have won the cup. If they lose both those games, it's not a disastrous season because they've been brilliant to get to this stage, but it would be so disappointing for them.
Well, it'll be disappointing, Ger, but if you're not up there challenging, you're not going to be disappointed. Do you know what I mean? If he was mid-table, that happens. If he doesn't qualify and he loses the cup, people say, "Oh, it hasn't been such a good season for him. He hasn't won anything, hasn't done it." But it's a long season, and at the start of the season, if somebody said to us now at that time, "Well, Leicester will be in the cup final," and they've a good chance of finishing, you'd say that's unbelievable. And so, even if he doesn't qualify and doesn't win the cup, I think he's done a fantastic job anyway, Ger. You have to go, what have we got at disposal? What's the situation in relation to Pep, for example? What's the comparison between Rodgers at what he's got at his disposal to get players in? Like it's no competition.
No. They're essentially, they've invested a little bit, but they've spent most of the money that they've raised from sales. So Chilwell goes out and a bunch of other younger players come in who immediately have an impact.
They have to, well, not that they have to sell players, but they're in a position, Ger. They're not like Manchester City or Manchester United that they have to sell, they have to sell Maguire and they have to sell Kante, Chilwell. All the more reason for Brendan Rodgers to be in the running for Manager of the Year with what he's done. He's had to replace those players, and from what I see, he hasn't spent an awful lot of money to do so. So that's great management, Ger.
Would he be better at Manchester United than Solskjaer?
Well, I'm only giving you my opinion. I believe so, yes.
On the basis of the way that his team would play and has played in the past and the improvements that the team makes from match to match and over.
That's the only way he can treat a manager, Gerard. What does he take over and what does he leave? Especially after 2 years, And if you look at Brendan Rodgers, he's been unlucky at Liverpool, did a really top job at Celtic, and since he's gone to Leicester, it's really, really good job. They're playing well, they're challenging with the best, hasn't spent much money. In fact, he's probably lost players over that. That's management. That's down to management. What has he got at his disposal? What's he getting from them? What resources does he have?
Obviously, there isn't a vacancy at Manchester United, and it's very unlikely that there will be. There's a good chance that they win that Europa League and they've qualified for the Champions League again. And so that's what the Glazers want. They want to be in the Champions League and they want trophies. And so the ownership and the new management will be happy enough with how Manchester United have...
I think, I'll only give you my take on it. I think the setup, and Woodward, he's leaving, I think now, is in charge of it, would rather have a Solskjaer, right, that they could, and a control might be too strong a word, than somebody at the moment like a young Ferguson.
Or
you know what I'm saying, Ger? I think they're happy being in control of who comes, who goes, and Solskjaer would like, okay, that's the players we got for you, now you get on with it from there. Now, that's not the recipe, in my opinion, for a successful situation. I think the manager has got to be in charge of that situation. Pep Guardiola, I think when he went to City, could, because they wanted him so much and he had such a reputation, was able to get those conditions, Ger, of being in charge as much as he possibly could for getting in the players he wanted and getting rid of the players he didn't want.
The biggest job that's available at the moment, as we stand now, is the Spurs job.
Yeah.
If they're looking around, and obviously there was some talk that they wanted one of the new young Germans as well, but not going to be available, it looks like. Is Brendan Rodgers the obvious candidate for that one? Should they just decide that, look, we've seen what you've done in football over the last decade or so, you're kind of exactly what we need in terms of the style of play that you have, your understanding of the transfer market, your ability to get the best out of players. We want to be a Champions League team here. Come and be successful with us.
I don't think he would touch it. And if I was advising him, I'd say don't go near the place.
Right.
Because you will not get the conditions that you want to be successful with Levy as in charge of the situation in charge of the situation at Spurs. No way. I mean, even with Mourinho there, he wanted Dele Alli to go on loan, for example, I think it was Paris Saint-Germain. Wanted him out. Levy stopped it. Right? Now if you're a manager, Ger, and you want to do something like that, you're not in charge of the situation. Was Mourinho going to be in charge of who comes and who goes? I don't think so. Levy's in charge of that. He's a financial man, right? I think as a manager, he'd be a nightmare to work for. Well, look what he did to Pochettino. Pochettino wasn't given two bob. to get players together. And then he sacks him because he hasn't won the trophy. I think, from what I see in the paper, I think he might have made an approach to Brendan Rodgers, but what I see in the paper, Brendan Rodgers said, no, thank you. And I don't blame him. If I was advising anyway, I wouldn't touch Spurs with anything. He's too much control, Levy. He's too much control of the situation, Ger. You can't build a team like that. If you want a player in management, 90% of the job is getting players in you want and getting rid of the players you don't want. It's 90% of the job. And if you don't have that situation, and I don't think anybody has it at Spurs, you have no chance of being successful.
Yeah. Okay. The last one I did want to ask you about is Tuchel. I know we've said a couple of times that it's very early on to be making too many assumptions. The game against Arsenal blew up in his face in terms of how it seemed that they were tuned in for it, and obviously there were loads of chances that they could have scraped something from it. He just didn't pick his best team, and I wonder if he goes back. I mean, obviously, if you give anybody the opportunity to go back and redo a defeat, they're going to do something slightly different. But I don't know. You just would be a little bit concerned that there was so much riding on it that they were unable to continue picking his strongest team for that game, the cup final, and then the Champions League final, which is still 2 weeks away.
Yeah, I think he's done a great job there, and if I was putting money on him being successful or not, I'd put a few bob on being successful. I think Paris Saint-Germain, he did a big job. I think he's one of those coaches now. It demands a lot of the players. I don't think there's any pally-wally with them. I think he's got the right approach. Now, I think the problem he has, if you could call it a problem, yeah, is that he doesn't have an out-and-out outstanding goal scorer. Now, he's got quite a few players, as you know, up front. I might not present the name. He's got Werner, he's got Zilic, Pulisic,
yeah,
Havertz. I mean, these are all players that spent a lot of money. Even the match the other night, I think it was Havertz, wasn't it, got through early on in the game, made a terrible mess. So he hasn't got a goal scorer or two goal scorers that you need to do what needs to be done, in my opinion. Defensively, he's been brilliant. There's a good attitude about him. He's got Kante in there. He's got some terrific players. I think he demands a lot of the players. I think he will be successful. If he's going to be doing it now, he's got to get, he spent, or not him, Chelsea, about 250 million on strikers. And Giroud might be the best of them. He didn't spend anything on. So he's got a lot going for him, but the teams that are successful, and this is the obvious, you have to be scoring goals. And I don't think he scored enough goals. I mean, Havertz got through the other night at a time when it was no score and made a right mess of it. And then Arsenal did well. They got a bit lucky, but they did well to go on and win it. So I don't think he'll give much away. I think the cup final will be very, very tight. Leicester are capable of doing them, but I think it'll be very, very tight. And the Champions League final, again, will be very tight. I think he'll give City a hell of a run for it, but he has to get somebody scoring goals for him, Ger.
From both perspectives, from Leicester and Chelsea, like obviously Chelsea are built to win the Champions League, and that's the dream from Abramovich's perspective. So it would be more of a disaster for Chelsea not to qualify for the Champions League. But from Leicester's perspective, like Brendan Rodgers is looking at these two games, do you pick the same team for both games if everybody's fit?
How much is between the games, Ger? How much rest?
It's Saturday and Tuesday.
Yeah, I'd pick the same team. I'd pick the same team. From Saturday, you got Sunday, Monday and Tuesday to recover. Yeah, I would. I don't think you can afford to make changes, Ger. It's difficult, but can it be? I think what Manchester United had a very difficult one when I think it was 3 matches in 5 days. I think the 2 matches from the weekend to the Tuesday would be okay. I mean, you're asking me my opinion. Yes, I would definitely. Like in the old days, Ger, we used to play 3 games on the trot at Christmas and Easter. And we were playing 42 matches. Now, I know it's going back a lot of time, but we still had to do it.
Yeah.
And funny enough, I always enjoyed the 3 3 matches, Ger.
Right, that's interesting. And did it matter if you'd lost the first one?
No, because in those days the players were expected to play in the 3 matches,
Fair
Ger.
enough. Yes, you knew. You knew
didn't
going
have
in.
big squads, Ger. In those days you might have a squad of about 16. So you played every match that was going at that time. You always fielded the same team. Like Shankly's thing was when he was at Liverpool, he said the less I have to change the team, the more chance we have of winning the league. In other words, play the same team every week. When I was at Leeds, we did that. We played the same team every week in the cup, Ger. There was no. We didn't want any rest, but there was 42 matches then. It can be done. Now, what they're saying nowadays, well, the game is quicker, and I don't go along with that. I think it's an expectancy now that with big squads, you can't play 2 games in 3 days. You have to rest the players. Now, I think a lot of the players' teams recently have to rest because there's so many. There are too many games, coming on top of each other. But I think if Leicester, with the matches that's in it, from when do they play? Saturday, is it?
Saturday and Tuesday, yeah.
So that's a long enough rest to play the same players.
And the other thing is, from Leicester's perspective, it's really the end of the season. If you win these games,
exactly.
that's it. Like, home and hose, done and dusted.
Yeah.
Everybody's on the beat. It's not like in Chelsea's case, they do have a much bigger game still to come in a week and a half, 10 days' time after that.
Yes. Yeah, I think in Leicester's case, if you have, as you say, Saturday to Tuesday, you'd be okay. All the managers have to do to be when, and again in my day with Don Reilly, in between those matches, with very little training, Ger. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
In other words, now rest, because you have your fitness at that stage of the season, and you need your match fitness. So I think if you just do light training in between those particular, I'm talking from Leicester's point of view, I don't think you'll have any problem with the players for that.
Okay. A reminder to everybody, Football and Off the Ball is brought to you by Paddy Power. For information on responsible gambling, visit gamblingcare.ie. Our live games on Sunday are Spurs against Wolves, Stephen Doyle and Brian Kerr on commentary duty for that one, and it's West Brom against Liverpool with Nathan and Vinnie Pert on duty. And obviously there'll be huge reaction to the Cup final on Saturday, and preview, of course, of the Champions League decider, essentially. It's not quite a decider, obviously, because Liverpool could still slip up. So there's plenty on the line in these games anyway, and you'll hear the West Brom Liverpool game, as I said, live on Sunday. John, give us a winner for the, I know it's ridiculous kind of before you see the teams for the Chelsea-Leicester game, but what's your inkling about who will be lifting the cup?
Well, I'd say on paper Chelsea would be favourites, Ger. But I know I'm giving myself an option. But I wouldn't be surprised if Leicester won it. No, that's it. I'm hedging my bets there a little bit. I think Chelsea on the bookies would be favourites. Right? No, everybody will say the same. There's only 2 teams in it, but I would make Chelsea favourites. But I think Leicester are a very, very dangerous team at the moment.
Yeah, cup games like this, it's just little weird things happen where somebody pops up and they're a hero out of nowhere, and
well, they're capable of doing it, Leicester. Both teams are capable of doing it, but I think Chelsea will be favourites. I mean, if I was putting my gun to my head for I was putting a £1,000 bet on, I would probably go with Chelsea. But I think Leicester are very, very good, and they're capable of winning the match. But I would make Chelsea favourites. Well,
look, that means it should be a good, enjoyable, tense FA Cup final, and heaven knows we could do with that.
Yes, definitely. I think it'll be a really, really good game. I think both teams are open. Both will be having a go, attacking wise. I think it'll be a really good game.
Fingers crossed. John, great to chat to you. Thanks a million. Stay well.
Thanks, Ger, and you.